Buddy, I'm John Jerkowitz. I'm a career development coach and consultant, and I'd like to welcome you to this evening's hangout on your personal brand and interviewing skills. This is the first in a number of hangouts I'm doing on personal branding and the job search and hiring process. I'd like to be able to sit here and tell you how many we're going to do. In the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have some real interesting and exciting guests, and I'll share a little bit more about that with you later on. But tonight we're going to talk about how your personal brand can influence the interview. And I'm going to give you 3 tips. Nothing's new under the sun. And I'm going to give you a special gift. Because you took the time out of your schedule this evening. You created some time because there was some interest and some value in what I was talking about. So I'm going to give you a free gift. Now, you might say initially, John, I'm not looking for a job. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. You have clients, don't you? Just like I do. And one of the things I've come to learn in my short career, your client's your boss. Every time you sit in front of a client or potential client, you're interviewing. So please take these and please use them. I think they're going to be a great value to you. I begin every event I host with the same statement. The world is changing. And as a matter of fact, the world is changing so quickly that you and I barely have time to catch our breaths before the next wave of change hits us. As you and I sit here this evening, 2,000 to 3,000 people are gathering at the Shrine Auditorium and Expo Center in Los Angeles, California, for a massive networking event. Imagine that. 3,000 people networking with one another, sharing their personal brands, sharing their dreams, their ideas, their visions. Now just close your eyes for a minute. Just close your eyes and imagine that you could market your talents, your accomplishments, and your own personal brand to this group of people without ever leaving your home or office. Close your eyes and imagine you're a corporate recruiter or a human resource manager looking for job candidates, and you're able to cast your net as wide as you can toss it. You're a coach, you're a consultant, you work from a home office on the internet as a fundraiser or a virtual assistant or a business coach, and the list goes on and on. Imagine a world that stresses collaboration instead of competition. You can open your eyes now if you closed them, because I'm going to tell you that you don't need to imagine that world. Because as you and I sit here right now in this hangout, this evening James Fierce is sharing a replay of the virtual team meeting broadcast he hosted this morning during a Google Hangout at the Shrine Auditorium and Expo Center. 6 members of the Team Referral Network talked about their business, how they helped people, how they could help other people do what they needed to do to be successful in today's world. That message is potentially going to reach 3,000 people while you and I sit here together this evening. And if I understand correctly, this is the first and only virtual team so far in the Team Referral Network. So imagine the possibilities. Imagine taking this amazing tool we have and using it endlessly over and over and over. Yeah, the world indeed is changing. So I'm thankful to be able to share a bit about how I see it changing and occurring with you this evening, particularly in the areas of personal branding and hiring, and how creating your personal brand and utilizing it in an interview will help you get the job you want or the client you've been after. In short, you're going to get a glimpse of the future of human resource management. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes talking about myself and what I've done and accomplished. If you're interested in those things, feel free to go to my webpage. You see my web address in the lower third here, and I'm going to give it to you a couple times during the Hangout because you're going to need to access my webpage to get your free gift. If you want to know all about me, read my bio. I'm not going to try to sell you anything this evening. You know, a few seconds ago I talked about collaborating rather than competing. One of the things that I think is just absolutely amazing about this venue we're participating in is that the collaboration we do with each other just makes it stronger and enhances our own business possibilities. I listened to a very intelligent, very successful gentleman talk this morning on a Hangout from Italy. 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. So I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Rather, I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you, and then I'm going to give you a gift, and more about that later. One housekeeping note for you this evening. Because I didn't share this event publicly, we won't be able to track any comments. So no worries. I'm going to give you my email address at the end of the Hangout, and maybe next week when we have a special guest, we can both answer some of those questions on branding for you. Finally, I want to give a real deep and heartfelt thanks to Michael Daniels of the user-to-user community here at Google+. Twice in the last 24 hours, Michael has scraped me off the ceiling and prevented me from committing harm and mayhem to myself when I absolutely and completely pressed some buttons I shouldn't have pressed. I am very grateful and thankful, Michael. So with that, I want to begin, and I'm going to show you a PowerPoint presentation this evening. So if you just give me a second here. There we go. And what I want to talk about is understanding your personal brand, the key to a successful interview. Okay. And I'd like to spend a few minutes laying the foundation for you. And as I do, I'm going to weave in these 3 tips I promised you. First of all, employment, whether it's a traditional job, whether it's a non-traditional job, whether it's an entrepreneurial job, fill in the blank, whatever you do, it's real simple. Jobs become available for 2 reasons. First of all, a job's created. Somebody says, I think we're large enough that we need to have a fill in the blank. Or a current position is vacated. Now that can be retirement, it can be resignation, termination, promotion, transfer, expansion. We need to hire 4 more accountants. The thing to understand, and here's the first tip for you, most employers don't know what they want. It's your job to show them. Those of us who've been consulting for a while, those of us who've been coaching for a while, know this real well, because usually we get called in to deal with clients who say, I've got an issue. Now, they're a little keener on what they need and want, but honestly, most employers don't know what it is they want. So when the position becomes available, they talk to somebody, and this is the kind of stuff they say. Well, I want somebody like fill in the blank who just got promoted, fired, hired, transferred. I want somebody just like them. I want somebody just like me, because after all, I'm successful and I work hard. And sometimes they even just say, well, give me a hard worker. Now, one of the things I've always bit my tongue real hard about saying to people that have told me that is there's some awful, incorrigible, and infamous people throughout history that were hard workers. You really want to hire them? I want somebody who's going to work for X amount of dollars a year or less. And finally, if the relationship with the previous employee ended badly, I want somebody not like the last one. And I think this tip is really, really important because as you create your brand and you proceed into an interview, whether it's live in front of a group of people, whether it's Skyped, I've done 2 Hangouts in the last 3 years, one-on-one Hangouts that were interviews. Whole new ball game. Not necessarily flying somebody in from far, far away. I don't know what I want. You have to tell me. Let me give you an example. Have you ever watched a good automobile salesperson in action? They show you much more than the basic operation of the vehicle. They create a picture, they create value, and they present you with options you never, ever imagined. Suddenly you're walking out of a dealership and you may have spent a little more money than you wanted to, and you may have a larger or smaller car than you came in there thinking, but I promise you, you walk out of there with a smile on your face. And that's your challenge in branding with someone who doesn't know what they want. Okay, I'm going to do the hiring process with you real quick, and I'm doing this for a reason because I found a lot of people don't understand. When you understand, you're one up on the people sitting outside of you in somebody's office just waiting for an interview. I've sat on both sides of the table. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of creating a series of blogs that I hope will turn into a book that says what happens when the door closes. I've sat on the other side of the door when you're done with your interview and people talk about how did you do, what did you do well, what didn't you do. That's why I know that the first and one of the most important tips you'll ever find, whether you're looking for a job or clients, is that most people don't know what they want. And most jobs are generated or have their origin in a job description. And here's what a job description is basically, because I've read some that honestly are cures for insomnia. They're 38 pages long, and when you finish reading them, you don't know any more than when you started. Job descriptions are like a set of schematic drawings for a house you're building. If you want to have a shower in your house with hot and cold running water, you need a blueprint to show you where the water enters the building and things like that. But that schematic doesn't tell you what type of shower you're going to have. It doesn't tell you if it's going to be a standalone shower, if it's going to be part of a tub, what type of head, what type of faucets. It just says here's where the hot and cold running water comes in. And a lot of organizations look at hiring people that way. So now imagine, a little teaser here for you, imagine if you walk into an interview and you have your personal brand nailed. All of a sudden somebody's going to go, we need to hire them. Right? Unfortunately, what ends up happening a lot of times is that the shower head ends up in the living room, because there's no clear-cut avenue for it to proceed. What happens after that is some poor person walks down the hall with this job description and they hand it to the people who are in charge of recruiting, gathering resumes, doing things like that. So now they send out a call to action, comes in a number of different ways. Might be a group of people who are recruiters this evening in Los Angeles looking for job candidates, and they got their little list, and here's what I'm looking for. And then those resumes come in and they're reviewed, and then you're interviewed, and then what I call the administrative process, checking background references, making sure you are who you say you are, and then finally a selection's made. Your personal brand is mostly impacted during that interview process. And one of you may be saying, well, what about your resume, John? And that's another topic for another time. And I agree with you. Okay? Because one of the things I encourage people to do is to weave that brand into their resume. Okay, here's tip number 2, the value of building your personal brand. Some of you may already know this, but all selection, whether it be for a job, whether it be for a client, is subjective. It's your job to create an attractive package for an employer or customer, and you do that by building a personal brand. Personal branding's your career DNA. It's constructed correctly, it can be an amazing blueprint to your future, and it can be so elastic that you can use it anywhere. You know, I told you I wasn't going to talk about me, but briefly in a sentence, I spent close to 25 years in traditional employment. Then I started a consulting company, morphed into being a coach, and now the endless possibilities of dealing with avenues like Google Plus and Google Hangouts to reach an even larger venue of people is just absolutely amazing. But I've carried my personal brand with me through that. This personal branding DNA is your career footprint. I can't emphasize that enough. Now I'm going to give you an example. Those of you who are loyal Google Hangout followers, are on Google Plus every day. When I say the phrase bat crap crazy, who do you think of? Mia Voss. Matter of fact, you can be out in public. You can hear that phrase from somebody that can't spell Google Plus. And what comes into your mind? That's the DNA of personal branding. And I can't emphasize that enough. If you're unsure of who you are and what you have to offer, you are never going to be able to connect with a potential employer, client, or even a vendor. You see, this just doesn't apply to a person who's in the middle of a job search. No. If you're a consultant, a coach, a trainer, your personal brand is what people buy. The people you market yourself to correctly are called your niche. But before you find your niche, you have to know what you have to offer and what sets you apart. Now, I want to pause here for just a minute because I will admit to you that I was present at the creation of the phenomenon, I'm being polite here, the phenomenon we call teamwork. And as a refrigerator magnet says, that horse is dead, get off of it. Well, in the last 3 to 4 years, we've had 2 more buzzwords that have entered our vocabulary. One is branding, and one is finding your niche. And I would submit to you that you really can't go looking for your niche until you understand what your unique brand is. I've seen so many people fail on their career paths because they've tried to create a niche and say, oh, well, here's my niche, now I'm going to make my brand fit that. Square peg, round hole. I want to take some time, and I'm going to talk to you a bit here about the personal branding mission statement and the exercise that goes with it. And this is something I developed about 2 years ago. You can get a copy of this at mywalkonwater.com. And I'd like you to stay here right now because I'm going to go through it with you, and this is really the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about tonight. And basically, it's split into 4 parts. The first thing you do is you want to collect data. And what I suggest you do is that you write an email to no less than 10 and no more than 20 people whose opinion you respect or who have known you for a while, who have worked with you, and ask them to describe your 3 key strengths as they see them. Now, I'm going to ask you to avoid coworkers, colleagues, family members or close friends. Deal with some people who you have interaction with on a day-to-day basis. Ask them, what 3 things are your strengths, and ask them and challenge them not to use any more than 2 words. So, for example, they might say you empower people, you energize people, clarify thoughts, create pictures. And once you collect that data, you can begin a process of elimination. And again, when you print out the personal branding and mission statement exercise, I take you through this step by step in there, including examples of how I created one of my own mission statements. Okay, so one of the people that responded to me said, "Good teacher." That was the only thing they said. "I think you're a good teacher." I think that says it all. Well, when I kind of weave this into the second part, which is create a mission statement based on that collected data, it just didn't resonate with me. Somewhere in there, the good teaching was certainly an outcome of a number of talents and tools I had, but it wasn't the best or the only. So I crossed it off. So then what you need to do is take those, and you need to create a 3 to 4 sentence mission statement that integrates the talents and skills you identified in step 1. And that mission statement should reflect your personal brand. The reason I should consider hiring you, the reason I should consider doing business with you. And here's another little tip. That mission statement is going to take the place of what used to be the objective statement on your resume. All right? So you're starting to see how we weave all this together. Okay? As you create this personal brand for yourself, regardless of how you're going to use it, you're starting to collaborate with a lot of other factions. Well, you know, as a coach or consultant, John, I don't put out a resume, but you have a web page. You do mailings in a newsletter. Think about the good newsletters you read. Think about the good web pages you go to. Why do you go there? Because that brand speaks to you. Okay, so now you've created a 3 to 4 sentence mission statement. If you take that and insert it in a resume, I'll give you a little tip here. Most resumes get a 20-second view. If something jumps off the page at me that's so powerful, guess what I'm going to do? I'm calling you in for an interview. Third thing you want to do is enhance the data. And you're going to see on the personal branding and mission statement exercise I gave you, I'd suggest that you take the DISC personality profile. I've given you a link where you can take it for free. And then take some of the things that some of the people that professionally analyze our characteristics and traits and weave that into your mission statement. Then finally, you want to finalize your mission statement. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is not a 15-minute exercise. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when I use this in my career makeover package, it's the first thing I do. I give the people the exercise, we talk about it, and I tell them I'll get back with them in 3 weeks. Huh? Yeah, because it's going to take you that long. Sometimes people will say, I'm halfway done, can I have another week? If you go to my webpage, www.mywalkonwater.com, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, it says free gift. I'm going to leave that free gift up there for 24 hours just for you. This is not anything I give away. This is not a mass marketing tool. This isn't something I throw away or just give away. I'm going to leave it up there for 24 hours. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube or a delayed broadcast and you say, hey, John, I really want it, you're going to see my email address at the end of this. I'll be more than glad to send it to you. But it'll be up there for 24 hours. And if you have any questions on using it, you can feel free to email me, invite me into a one-on-one hangout. We can figure out something to do. Tip number 3, take control of the interview. And Here's how you do that. If you do this right, there should only be one question in the interview. But before I get to that, I just want to show you here. I created this a while back, and I think it's very powerful because if you look at your personal branding, you can see that it influences your resumes, your career development, your interviewing skills, your mission statement. It's your DNA. When you weave it all together, it presents a powerful package because here's the only question you should need to answer in an interview. So, John, tell me all about yourself. Now, on top of being really good looking, my wife's watching this, I read minds. Most people say, my name's John Jerkowitz. I am 61 years old, and I'm married to Joan, and I have 6 children, and I have 2 grandchildren, 2 dogs, and we live in Owensboro, Kentucky, and I've just given you all kinds of information that you can't legally ask me, and we're not going to go down that road tonight. Remember how I said all hiring's subjective? You're either being qualified or disqualified in those first 2 sentences. But when you've created the mission statement and you've created your brand, when you walk in the room to that interview, then what are you doing? You're basically taking control. So what do? You've got a distinct advantage to begin with. A distinct advantage over the people interviewing you because by the virtue of your mission statement, you know what you want. Remember, a lot of times they don't know what they want. Well, John, I want to argue with you about that because the company I work for, good. I'm glad they do. But turnover in the United States is running higher than unemployment's running right now. What does that tell you? So, when I say tell me about yourself, you need to talk to me about being specific. I'm really excited about being here today because when I read your job posting, I saw you have the qualities you're looking for in a, say, customer service supervisor. And I'm sure you've reviewed my resume, but let me give you a brief synopsis of some of the things I've accomplished that can help your company grow into its goals and objectives. And, you know, I'm talking formally here. Everybody, remember I said it's your DNA. I noticed from your website that community involvement's a priority here. It's one of mine also. I've been involved in A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Stay very specific to the position you're hiring for. Use that resume and the thing you've accomplished along with your personal brand to say, here's what I can do for you. I know you were looking for a used car with low mileage, good tires that gets excellent fuel economy. Let me tell you something, for that very same money, I'm going to give you a luxury vehicle. You go back to what the car salesperson said, we're doing the same thing. Prepare. There's a fine line between sounding like you memorized a script and sounding natural and prepared. You want to have your act together and sound natural at the same time. So I suggest you follow a 2-step process. First, outline the script of your personal mission statement, your branding statement, in some bullet points, and what makes you an attractive candidate or coach or consultant for that company. Second, rehearse them with someone who will be critical of you and maybe ask you some tough follow-up questions. This is important because you want to anticipate every question you're going to be asked, and you're going to fold those answers into your script before someone asks them. This is really important if there happens to be something negative in a previous job experience. Maybe you didn't get along with somebody and you had to leave. You might want to say something like, you know, I'm sure if you check a little further, you're going to find out in my last job that I quit. I gave my 2 weeks notice and left. I did not get along with my supervisor. But let me tell you something. Here's what I've learned since then. All right? Because 3 things that will never fail you: be honest, be sincere, and I forgot what the third one was. Be honest, be sincere, and be compassionate towards your interviewer. Employ the KISS principle. When the creators of the television program Sesame Street formed focus groups for their show, they found that most people have a 3-minute attention span. So I encourage people to keep that script to 2 to 2.5 minutes. And if you sit down and time yourself, you're going to see that 2 minutes is a long time to talk. So use the KISS principle. Keep it short and simple. Prepare. Before you try your script on live human beings, practice in front of a mirror or a pet. I promise you, I have 2 of the most intelligent dogs in the world. Because when I get ready to do a presentation, they're my initial audience. It allows me to get comfortable, allows me to revise or reject. Now, I realize that when you look at this, this is a lot to remember. But when you've established a personal brand statement and you understand what niche you're after, ultimately, that's been crafted into a mission statement. I want to go back to where I started. When I asked you to close your eyes and imagine yourself in front of 3,000 people, that may be very, very scary. That might be very scary even if you have a personal mission or a personal branding statement. But let me ask you something. Imagine what it would be like if you didn't. See, the world has indeed changed. I believe that. And the one-on-one interview, the people waiting in the lobby with the receptionist and drinking cold coffee, those days are rapidly ending. We're going to be looking at 2,000 to 3,000 people that want to hire us, or maybe want to contract with us to coach or to consult. And if you don't have your brand together, if you don't have your stuff down right, it's not going to happen for you. The world is going to become more competitive rather than less. So, stay job specific, prepare, and employ the KISS principle. Finally, I want to tell you that next week I'm going to have a real special guest, Melanie McDonald, who's a brand identity and outreach strategy consultant. And she's going to share with us her perspective on this branding, dealing with her clients and her customers, and how critical and crucial it is for each of us to have that personal brand. And I am really, really looking forward to this because you're going to get a perspective from Melanie that may be completely different than mine, but it'll complement what we've been talking about this evening. So just to kind of recap with you, if you have any questions or comments for me, you can reach me at john.jerkowitz@gmail.com. So if you don't get to my website to pick up the free gift in the next 24 hours, please just send me an email. I'll be more than glad to send it to you. I also encourage you and humbly ask you to share this presentation with anybody that you think might benefit from it. I've really enjoyed being with you this evening. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. And that brings an end to us being together. Like I said, I've really enjoyed it, and I did pretty good. I only ran 4 minutes longer than I thought I was going to. That's part of my brand, is that I really have a very deep respect for your time. And because I do so, I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button now, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care, and I'll talk to you next week. As we used to say when I was a kid, same bat time, same bat channel. Good night, everybody.